I need to talk to y'all about Marathon, but first, we gotta talk about the fact that it's become impossible to talk about Marathon. The discourse around the game has devolved so rapidly that whatever I say will inevitably be drowned out by those who can scream the loudest. This game is boring. The aesthetics of the game are like visual diarrhea and the UI is unintuitive and cluttered. It's just another live service slop and it's gonna fail exactly like Concord and Highguard did. Just look at the player numbers declining over the course of the server slam. It will be the death of Bungie. Marathon is an IQ test. If you can't get through the menus or you don't understand how to play the game, the real issue might be you, little bro. Bungie cooked up something special here with a bold look and a clear vision. But no, you all would rather go buy Call of Duty for the 10th time in a row than play anything remotely challenging. This game is supposed to be hard, that's the actual point. It opens up a lot more after you get through the first 20 hours. But hey, since you lack the skill to play Marathon, you can cry your way back to Destiny 2. I could go on. Even with my own footage, I can cut it in a way that perfectly serves one of the two warring camps. I could turn this video into a glowing review of Marathon, or I could turn it into a hateful rant about the game industry. Neither approach feels satisfying though, because both are fundamentally dishonest. I don't want either camp to think even for a single terrifying second that I'm on their side. I had a chance to play the game, so I played it. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Look, I'm new to the genre. I've never played an extraction shooter before. I missed the train on both Tarkov and Arc Raiders. On top of that, this is my first time playing a Bungie game. With this server slam, I had to actively push myself out of my comfort zone to meet Marathon where it's at. And what I've found surprised me. Everyone online keeps telling me that I'm supposed to dislike the game. My YouTube algorithm made sure to feed me a steady flow of videos on Marathon over the course of the past few days. Some of them filled with spite-driven hatred for it, others with unbridled praise and outright dismissal of its detractors. Most, however, seem to fall into this murky middle ground, a meek admission that they had fun with the game, with the rest of the video focused on the exact same few points of criticism. But regardless of the angle, there seems to be one thing in common between them all. None of them seem to accurately describe my experience with the game. Even those who liked it speak at length about how hardcore and inaccessible it is, how it's impossible to enjoy Marathon if you're a casual who can only spend an hour gaming after coming home from work. And yet, that's exactly what I did over the course of this server slam. Small gaming sessions, no longer than 90 minutes at a time, over the course of a few days. Progressing at a leisurely pace, barely scratching the surface of the game's overall depth. Not only was this a viable way to play the game, I found it genuinely fun and exciting. The challenge never felt unfair to me. The game presented me with a steep wall, but then gave me the tools to climb it, providing small encouragement along the way. It allowed me to do so at my own pace and in my own way, and as a casual gamer, I honestly appreciate that. On my first two runs, I died super quick, in somewhat confusing ways. Right off the bat, I got rushed by someone with a knife, without even realizing it was another player. On the second, I got killed by a combat unit that looked exactly like any other, but seemingly had more health. Subconsciously, I understood that's the whole point. That's the intended experience. I simply had to push through it. Over the next few attempts, I finally started figuring out what the hell I was doing. Though I did have to run away from bots a couple of times. It was silly, but I'm glad it's an option. Eventually, I managed to finish my first task. Turns out my objective shows up as a quest marker. How casual friendly. I finished it up and cautiously went for the nearest exfil. It got chaotic pretty quickly. I was swarmed and downed, and in that state I extracted with just 2 seconds to spare. I got to feel that rush of surviving, which was amazing. And that got me to realize something about the game. Whenever people call the game hardcore, they usually mean that it's harsh or punishing. And there's a general truth to that. In Marathon, every mistake you make comes with a price. But to me, it never felt unfair. Instead, I felt like those hardcore systems made it more accessible to me, rather than prohibitively challenging. For example, the low time to kill means that I still have a chance in the fights, as long as I can outsmart or outmaneuver my opponents. It's not a pure skill check, and that's a big deal for a casual like me. My horrible aim and my generally long reaction time can be compensated by me paying attention to my surroundings and thinking through the encounters. As long as I can line up my hits, I can win fights even with starter weapons. I've seen people online complaining about the structures scattered around the map having confusing layouts. They are designed to have multiple points of entrance, narrow corridors, dead ends, and unexpected lines of sight. But for me, the maze-like architecture of those structures allowed me to hide in corners or slip away, avoiding combat altogether. I can tell they were built with intention. The developers clearly put a lot more thought into these points of interest than some give them credit for. Utilizing sponsored kits or playing as Rook ensured that I never ran out of gear throughout the server slam, even though I've died on most of my raids. The gear fear never caught up with me, since I always had options available. I knew that I could bounce back even if I lost all of my stash. With Rook, I barely felt the sting whenever I died at all. At the time, I considered it to be too much hand-holding, even for my taste. Looking back, I understand that it was one of the reasons why I even had the chance to learn the game without getting discouraged. Sometimes it's better to help out newbies a little too much rather than not help us enough and push us away. The bots in Marathon are also in a good place challenge-wise. They're dumb, they get stuck sometimes, and they can be easily outsmarted. If you pick fire at them from behind a corner or if you hold a corridor, it's easy to mow down these combat units. But when out in the open, they can move quickly and unpredictably, so if you find yourself surrounded by them, they can still overwhelm and kill you. I feel like this is a good balance for the mobs, dangerous but not unfair. I found the core gameplay loop to be seriously engaging, though it's entirely possible that I'm simply having fun with it because this is my first extraction shooter. The highs of escaping and the lows of getting demolished by a three-man squad are providing an addictive experience. The game's mechanics work in a way that it's always worthwhile to approach the firefights tactically. Positioning, using abilities, being mindful of your surroundings. It's far from just having to keep your sights on the enemy. Being able to swap between different shells is a neat idea. Their abilities ensure that each feels unique gameplay-wise, though I imagine most players will find one they enjoy and stick to that one. It probably adds a rich layer of complexity to the squad gameplay. I wouldn't know. Aside from queuing with randoms a couple of times, I played Marathon solo, and I enjoyed it that way. With all that being said, there's one big part of the game that didn't work for me. It's all about the looting experience. This is far more crucial than cluttered UI. I can learn the menus, I can get used to them, but I can't change the fact that my vault was completely full after the first few successful runs. It's frustrating to say the least. It breaks the most dopamine-filled part of the game for me, which is finding stuff and bringing it back. The accumulation of loot in your stash is supposed to be at the heart of the game, especially given how difficult it can be to get. Instead, I could barely keep 2 rows of weapons in my vault. Everything else was quickly taken up by junk. Sifting through it all, deciding what to sell and what to keep, feels like the game is punishing me for surviving. Whenever I died, I caught myself thinking, good, finally got some more room in my stash. Was that the gold bungee? Because if so, I'm not a fan. It works against the game's entire premise. Even in raid, I ran out of space way too quickly. After visiting just one point of interest, the inventory is already full. On top of that, I haven't found even a single backpack. When I managed to kill someone, I couldn't even loot them properly. It's more than a little demoralizing. The loot itself was also confusing at times. There were so many items, and most I genuinely couldn't figure out a use case for. I think the sci-fi setting kind of threw off my gut instincts. I couldn't make assumptions, I had to learn. In a normal game, when I see a bandage, I immediately know how it works and what it does. But in Marathon, most items don't communicate anything to me. They just look like a tech component with a techie name and a wordy description. But honestly, I just wish my stash was larger and backpacks were more plentiful. So here's the big question. Am I the outlier, or is everyone else wrong about the casual experience? Everyone keeps saying that the game is supposed to repel people who have jobs, personal lives, and who can only play for an hour or two after work. I am that person. I am the exact demographic that every content creator is trying to protect from marathon's difficulty. I've seen people get outraged on my behalf, and yet I got exactly what the game was going for. It landed perfectly for me. I'm genuinely puzzled by this. Funny thing, isn't it? Neither side of the online war around the game understood the casual experience with it. I didn't feel like my time with the game was reflected in either side's arguments, but I did feel like the developers were mindful of me and people like me. Those who are new to the genre, those who don't have much time to play daily. Even in a game marketed as hardcore, Bungie understood the needs of casual players. The servers shut down a few days ago, and ever since they did, I've had this itch. I've been getting images of the game stuck in my mind. My overall verdict is that I actually loved the game unapologetically. I got hooked by the promise of it. Marathon gave me a feeling that no other game I've played so far was able to achieve, and I would love to get a chance to play it again.